ABC 6 News 11 at 11 starts right now.
Two deadly
ABC 6 News 11 at 11 starts right now.
Two deadly crashes on New Year's Day with suspects fleeing the scene in both incidents. Tonight, you'll hear from family members of one of the victims. Students in Providence are back to school tomorrow after winter break, but with the COVID surge, some teachers are saying their voices aren't being heard. Why the city's teachers union says the state is mishandling COVID in schools. And no school tomorrow for Wareham Public Schools. Why students are getting an extra day of winter break. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for ABC 6 11 at 11 this Sunday evening. I'm Hector Molina, in for Darren Botello. We begin with our top story tonight. Tragedy on New Year's Day as a 17-year-old died in a crash in Warwick. The other driver left the scene but was arrested at his home later that day. The victim's family now demands that he's locked up for as long as possible. ABC 6 News reporter Dominique Turner spoke with loved ones and witnesses of that crash.
The beginning of 2022 is off to a tragic start for the Passeretti-Malloy family. When telling me about the death of their sister and daughter, Olivia, the family was overwhelmed with emotion, remembering the teen as bright, funny, and someone you always wanted to be around. 17-year-old Olivia Passeretti, a sister, friend, and a daughter, killed in a hit-and-run on I-95 southbound in Warwick just about an hour into the new year.
This is a nightmare that I can't wait to wake up from. She was my younger sister. Sometimes she was my older sister. She was always my best friend.
The teen was on her way home after ringing in the new year with her sister, Jackie.
It was the worst feeling to wake up and know, what could I have done differently? She gave me a hug, kiss on the cheek. I love you. I'll text me when you get home. And the text never came.
While driving on I-95 South, a speeding driver hit Olivia's Nissan Altima, running it off the road and into an embankment. That driver then fled the scene.
The person that did this to her deserves to rot in jail for the rest of time.
Her mother, Janine, tells ABC 6 News Olivia was always the designated driver, constantly thinking of others' safety.
She was doing the right thing, and then things like this happened to her. Senseless.
On Sunday, Rhode Island State Police announced the arrest of 30-year-old Aramis Segura. Police found him at his Charlestown home Saturday evening.
We're so thankful for the police for doing their job in finding him. And in the short time that we've found out who it was, we've learned a lot about his history. And he has a long history of crime and of hurting people. He took an innocent, perfect young girl, and he should pay for that.
When he noticed the crash, witness Kenny Raposo immediately pulled over to help Olivia while he saw Segura walk away.
That little girl was only 17 that you hit and took her life.
Olivia's stepfather, Dennis Malloy, and the rest of her family say they appreciate Raposo for being with Olivia in her final moments.
I do plan on calling him to thank him because he at least stopped and was in it enough to find out if she was okay. The guy who did it just walked away.
Court records show Aramis Segura has a lengthy criminal history. He's being presented as a Superior Court probation violator on a previous breaking and entering charge. Segura is being held at the ACI and expected to be in court on Monday. Reporting in the newsroom, I'm Dominique Turner, ABC 6 News.
Now, that was one of two deadly crashes on New Year's Day. Another death just an hour later in Lincoln. Lincoln police responded to reports of a crash on Cobble Hill Road at about 2 a.m. on January 1st. 34-year-old Nanlio Mariz Albizu of Providence drove off the road, went airborne, and hit two telephone poles. She was transported to Rhode Island Hospital, where she later died. Now Lincoln police need your help finding this man, 42-year-old Gregory Miller. He's wanted for leaving the scene of the accident resulting in death. This crash remains under investigation by the Lincoln Police and Detective Divisions. Anyone with information on Miller's whereabouts is asked to call the Lincoln Police Department. New tonight, a dog is dead and 2 people are without a home after a house fire in Providence. Firefighters responded to a home on Marion Avenue at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Crews said they noticed a significant amount of flames on the 2nd floor. No one was home at the time of the fire. However, a dog was inside who died as a result. A teenage boy is in the hospital tonight after he was hit by a car in Woonsocket. He was hit in the area of Roberta and Rockland Avenue around 4 o'clock this afternoon. He suffered minor injuries, but is expected to be okay. Now to a check on the forecast, ABC 6 storm tracker meteorologist Tim Studebaker joins us live in the Weather Center. Tim, a little chilly out right now, but during the day it was pretty warm.
It was, yeah. It felt a lot like spring out there over the weekend. Although we had a lot of cloud cover and some rain at times, we saw temperatures that were well above the average for this time of year. Well into the 50s earlier today. 55 at TF Green, 52 in New Bedford, 51 your high earlier today in Taunton, and Westerly checked in with 53 earlier. But as you mentioned, Hector, it is a little bit more chilly out there now with those temperatures back into the 30s. The return of winter time temperatures is happening right now and will be with us into the beginning of the work week, as well as wintertime weather. We have some snow to talk about for tomorrow afternoon. But first things first, winds right now about 10 to 15 miles per hour. That's bringing a little bit of a wind chill factor to the equation. Temperatures overnight into the 20s with some partial clearing. It is much colder and blustery with those winds making it feel like it's in the teens overnight. Tomorrow, cold and blustery, highs only in the 30s. We'll see increasing clouds and then some flurries north of Providence and some light snow south of Providence. We'll talk accumulations coming up in your full forecast. Back over to you.
All right, thanks, Tim. Now to the latest on the coronavirus here in Rhode Island. Providence students will return to the classroom tomorrow after winter break. However, the city's teachers union thinks full in-person learning isn't the right approach. Providence Teachers Union Local 958 expressed their concerns on Twitter today, saying the state should have asked parents and students about their comfort level in returning to the classroom amidst this COVID surge. The teachers union went on to ask what measures will be taken if cases will continue to rise, saying that distance and hybrid learning should still be on the table. The union's president, Mary Beth Calabro, tells ABC 6 that the lack of communication was a missed opportunity for the state.
Like, we really missed an opportunity to speak to families and kids and find out how they were feeling. You know, there's a lot of anxiety out there, a lot. We're hearing from parents, we're hearing from our own students about, they're nervous or concerned about coming back. So, I think we missed an opportunity.
Providence schools say they still plan to test students each day of their staggered return this week. Pre-K, kindergarten, and grades 1, 6, and 9 will return tomorrow. Grades 2, 3, 7, 10, and 11 will go back on Tuesday. Grades 4, 5, 8, and 12 will return on Wednesday. Students attending all public Wareham schools will now have an extra day of winter break. Superintendent Dr. Shaver Hood announced on the Wareham Public Schools website that classes are canceled for tomorrow. The superintendent says the cancellation is due to staff members calling out sick. Classes are expected to return on Wednesday. The school department says they will send an update to families tomorrow. No word on if all those illnesses are COVID related. With students back in the classroom tomorrow, the East Providence School Department held a COVID testing event at the Edward R. Martin Middle School from 10 o'clock this morning till 1 this afternoon. Teachers and other faculty members served as volunteers for today's event. More than 600 tests were given within the first 3 hours. The school superintendent says they plan to mitigate the spread as much as possible, as their and many other schools' situation could get much worse in the coming weeks.
I think for the next 6 to 8 weeks, we have a real challenge ahead of us with staffing and trying to keep all of the students safe and staff safe and staff being able to come in. I think that's a real issue we're going to be looking at.
The department says they received a total of 2,400 tests from the state. Lines continue to grow at TF Green International Airport, but one of them isn't for travel. The airport has become a destination for COVID testing. Testing lines at TF Green are getting longer as many other pharmacies and clinics continue to fill up. Testing is available on site 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. with no appointment required. ABC6 spoke with a college student who said after calling multiple pharmacies, getting a test at the airport was the only option.
We called a lot of different testing sites, CVS's, and the person we did talk to, I believe from CVS Pharmacy, said that they're all out of tests like in the state until later this week. So it's very difficult to find one.
To find the nearest COVID testing sites near you, log on to our website, abc6.com. Now to a look at how students across the country are preparing to return to the classroom after holiday break and how schools plan to keep them safe. ABC's Ines de la Cuartera has the latest.
As the holiday season ends and Americans return to work and school, the number of COVID-19 cases is surging. The U.S. reporting more than 2.2 million new cases this week. Pediatric hospitalizations at an all-time high as students head back from break. New York City schools, the nation's largest public school system, will return to in-person learning Monday with extra precautions in place. But north of Manhattan, Yonkers, one of the state's largest, will begin remotely due to the high number of cases.
It may make sense to delay school opening for a week or two, at least having a remote option for some of those parents who have children who are higher risk and maybe feel more comfortable staying home.
Around the country, at least 11 states have called up the National Guard to help with the surge in cases. And in many states, hospitals are overwhelmed.
We have so many patients in the ICU right now that we are all pulling extra shifts and coming in extra days to work.
All over the U.S., people continue to wait for testing in long lines. But there has been some criticism of the guidance from the CDC about what to do after a positive test. Last week, the agency reduced the isolation time of a person testing positive for COVID to 5 days, followed by 5 days of masking, and did not require a negative test before returning to work. But on This Week, Dr. Fauci says that guidance might be updated within the next few days.
The CDC is very well aware that there has been some pushback about that. Looking at it again, there may be an option in that testing could be a part of that.
Ines de la Cuartera, ABC News, Washington.
All right, week 17 for the New England Patriots, and after a year hiatus, the Pats are playoff bound once again. New England clinched their ticket to the playoffs in dominating fashion this afternoon with a 50-10 win over the Jaguars. ABC6 Sports Director Nick Coit has the recap from the Pats' final home game of the regular season.
Perfect scenario for the Patriots to get back on track on Sunday with the 2-win Jaguars in Foxborough. And not only did the Pats get a victory, New England beat up Jacksonville. And with the win and the Dolphins losing to the Titans, guess what? The Pats are back in the NFL playoffs. So here's how New England got it done on Sunday. Mac Jones and the offense came out firing for the Pats. New England scoring on its first 5 possessions of the ballgame. Damian Harris with the 7-yard touchdown run in the second quarter to make it 14-3. Jones himself was good through the air Sunday. Later in the second, finds practice squad call-up Christian Wilkerson, his first career TD catch to make it 21-3. Mac throwing for 3 scores through the air. Before halftime, he hits Jacoby Myers for a corner TD. It was 28-3 at the break, and New England never let up. Wilkerson had a second TD catch. Ramondre Stevenson had a pair of touchdowns as well as the Patriots beat the Jaguars 50-10 the final.
I think we had a really good plan, and the offensive line obviously did a great job executing and keeping the pocket clean and all that, and the receivers making their catches, and the running backs running. So we finally kind of played the game on our terms and all that, so that's what we wanted to do.
We'll have more highlights, post-game reaction coming up later in the Sportscast. For now, from Gillette Stadium with the playoff-bound Patriots in Foxborough, I'm Nick Coit, ABC6 Sports.
All right, that'll do it for 11 at 11, but still to come, the CDC making guideline changes for people who test positive for COVID. What Dr. Fauci says is the reason for a shorter isolation period. Plus, we're days away from the 1-year anniversary of the Capitol riot that took place on January 6th, how the aftermath affected some Americans' feelings toward the government. You're watching ABC 6 at 11.
This might look like a cliffhanger.
But this is the Nissan sales event ad. There's something to hold on to.
This is the part where I rush to save the day.
Wow, what a ride.
Hurry in for 0% financing for 36 months on Frontier.
Better bring that home for the holidays.
Hello, AAA, your home for everything insurance, including auto insurance, home and renters insurance, small business insurance, and more. This is Pam. How can I help you find the best coverage and price today? Sure, I can help you with that.
With these injuries, we are on the hook for a boatload.
I'm going to bury them.
Delay them.
Forever.
Well,
They'll come around.
right.
They always do.
They brought in the law offices of the Oliveira and Associates.
Could you handle this one?
If you've been injured in an accident, tell them you mean business. Call D'Oliveira and Associates on the Hurt Line right now.
Long Moving and Storage is New England's premier moving and storage company. Whether it's a household or an office move, the experienced team at Long Moving and Storage will handle your items with the utmost care.
Whatever your moving and storage needs, Long Moving and Storage has got you covered.
Now, when was the last time you went to your bank to borrow money and they gave you a loan with no interest? I'll bet never, right? Well, right now at Jordan's, you can get up to 84 months, no interest, and no deposit. So don't wait. You can use your credit card, buy $5,000 worth of furniture, and pay it off in 84 months, and you'll pay over $1,000 in interest. Or you can use our credit card, get up to 84 months with equal payments, and pay no interest.
Now to a look at news making headlines across the country. There's been a lot of confusion as to why the CDC decided to change their COVID-19 isolation period. Tonight, Dr. Anthony Fauci is providing more guidance as to why the timetable has been shortened and says even more clarification could be coming very soon. The updated guidelines changed the COVID isolation period from 10 to 5 days for those who are vaccinated and asymptomatic. Dr. Fauci says getting more people back into the workplace was a big reason for the change.
There's no doubt that you do want to get people out into the workplace if they are without symptoms. And in the second half of a 10-day period, which would normally be a 10-day isolation period, the likelihood of transmissibility is considerably lower in that second half of a 10-day period. And for that reason, the CDC made the judgment that it would be relatively low risk to get people out.
Fauci's latest comments on testing as a requirement to end isolation come as the Biden administration continues to face a shortage of COVID-19 tests. Now to that massive travel headache facing people all across the country. Getting home after the holiday isn't getting any easier. Airlines crippled by both bad weather and COVID, forced to cancel or delay thousands of flights. ABC's Elwin Lopez from Atlanta with how folks are dealing with this chaos.
From Minneapolis to Boston, millions standing in lines at airports on one of the year's busiest travel days.
There is no space to spend the time and something to eat, so it's a long time here.
An increase in COVID-19 cases impacting pilots and other staff, forcing airlines to cancel or delay flights.
It's just like when we think air travel couldn't get any worse, it gets worse.
In Atlanta, airport officials advising passengers to arrive 2.5 hours before their domestic flights.
I'm not used to it. Last year, I was traveling, there was no one here, which was kind of eerie. So I like to see the people, but this is a lot of people.
And to make matters worse, there's bad weather. Chicago's 2 major airports canceling more than 1,000 flights and about 300 others delayed due to heavy snow. Passengers now bracing for even more delays.
I was watching the weather very, very closely because of that. Because the weather, they say it's a nasty storm moving.
I'm hoping we don't get any more snow, because if we do, then I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Elwin Lopez, ABC News, Atlanta.
Now we're just days before the 1-year anniversary of the Capitol riot. A poll today shows 34% of Americans believe violence against the government is sometimes justified. The survey was taken mid-December last month by the Washington Post and the University of Maryland. According to the newspaper, this number is considerably higher than in previous polls dating back the last 2 decades.